Okay, so welcome to the first interview with Yves Daccord, the chairman of the Edgelands Institute. And this is a very exciting time because this is exactly 1 month before our launch. So we're working hard to get everything ready. My name is Beatriz Botero, by the way. I am head of research and program. And let's get it going. Yves, it's 1 month before our launch, and it's been 6 months of intense planning, but also with many world events going on. A US election, most of us are still until some form of lockdown. There are internet shutdowns all over the world. Tell us a little bit about the Edgelands Institute and what your vision for the Institute is in these interesting times.
I think it comes from the fact that we are all somewhat obsessed by how do we live together, right? I'm coming from a background of a Red Crosser. I've spent a lot of time at the International Red Cross, and I was always fascinated about the fact that society are remarkably complex object, if you want. And it's beautiful when you look at the way society are organized, but it's also remarkable to see how quickly it is, society can be fragmented and destroyed. And of course, in this digital age, I'm quite fascinated about the fact that there is very, very little conversation about how much digital technology are impacting our us together. We all know that they're impacting us as individual. We know it. We've seen that through our mobile phone and our, our connections with that, all that. But we have very little understanding about how much does that impact us. So Edgeland comes from the idea that it's a time right now where we need to be able to propose methodology that will help people, and I think really you and me, at the core, to discuss what are the social contracts, how much they are related to their legitimate authority, what are the trade-offs they're ready to do when it comes to security, to their own safety, the safety of their family, of maybe the community, and how much this dynamic is in fact shifting through, in fact, the digitalization of security. Look at all the camera, we have the CCTV, all the data questions, but also, and you mentioned that, Beatrice, around COVID-19. COVID-19 is changing dramatically our society, I think, and the way we relate to each other. So fantastic time to be able to explore that.
I agree. It's fantastic, but it also sounds huge. And the Edgelands Institute is a pop-up institute. We're going to be around only for a limited time span. We're also going to use the arts. Why? Tell us a little bit about why that methodology. Why do something that different to address such a big thing?
I think credit to the colleagues of Berkman Klein Centers, where we are incubated at Harvard, that came with the idea of a pop-up. I really love the idea that when you want to tackle societal questions, big one, you somewhat bring the energy of a pop-up art, really, so focus, radically decentralized, limited in time, and at the same time, you marry that with the excellence of an academic institution. And I think the mix between the two is what makes it interesting. And I think we need to be able to do that in order to, tackle societal issues, but also recognize and be humble about the fact that our way to approach it, to understanding, to explore it, and maybe to propose solution is limited. And I think as a pop-up institute, what you do, you really trust the people that you're working with, and you are hoping to create, if you think about a system theory, you're hoping to do maybe a little change that will maybe over time create a movement. That is what is interesting with the Popup Institute.
That's great. You mentioned before that our what is us is changing because of digital technologies and who we relate to, how we communicate. But beyond that, it seems to me that in many places around the world, people are angry and hurt, and actually oftentimes rightly so, or with very good reasons. But this is a very difficult environment to come together and have difficult conversations about our social contract. I mean, it may also be that we never discuss the social contract when it's working smoothly, right? But it seems daunting to sit together at the table when we're hurt, when we're angry. But you have experience in this. What do you think are good practices or things that work to create trust amongst people that maybe dislike each other, and to have this type of difficult conversation?
So what I've learned in my work at the Red Cross, when we had to negotiate, for example, with, in fact, what we call in our jargon, non-state armed groups, or people who control territory, very tough people, the best way for us to sit and to generate trust was to sit at their table and was to somewhat show vulnerability. So no bodyguards. You arrive, you're really vulnerable, and somewhat you're creating a mutual relationship, almost a mutual vulnerability that allow to start to create trust. And I would argue that right now, and that's one of the problems with the anger, our anger around the world are very competitive. They don't talk to each other, right? It's by class, or it's by generation, or by race, or whatever. And I think there is very little ability to bring that together. I'm not naive. I don't think you should just say, hi, let's have a big discussion and it will solve all that. But you could and you should have methodology. And this is why it's also interesting to have not just research, but also, in fact, social methodology and art, I would argue, that helps to really bring what people want to tell us. Because I think one of the questions about the anger is the fact that people don't feel that they're heard. They feel that they are not understood, really. There is no ability for them to be able to express their worry and also their influence over what is happening over their own status and own future. So I think this is what we're hearing right now. And I think the social contract is not the only one, but it's an interesting way to come into these discussions because it's about the people. And you have to start with the people. You have to start with what is your issue about security? How do you want to be protected? What is important for you? What are the trade-offs? And then allowing the people themselves to start to establish what is important for them and see where the communities compare, maybe not just one community, but different community and different cities. I think there is a way to do that I think will help us to have the real conversation. Of course, conversations are also interesting if people feel they are heard, it's safe, and there is possibly an impact. And that is also what is important when you bring a methodology like us.
So a key element of our methodology is to allow people to let the guard down a little, like create a.
Yeah, and somewhat, and I know it's difficult, but somewhat feeling this is a space which is safe, and feeling that yes, they might be able to express themselves, but they might also be interested to learn from other. I think there is something around that which is interesting. At the same time, so let's be very clear. I'm not. I think we are not kind of a naive group of people who just think that by just the mere nature of discussions everything will be solved. No, I think that's just a start of a conversation that are complex. But look at all of us where we are. We are in such diverse society, such changing society. It's time for us to really rediscuss the rules of the game. And the rules of the game are never discussed, especially when it comes to not only, but also when it comes to the digital nature of our world. It's changing so fast. Who owns my data? What does that mean? How does that mean in terms of security and the security of my family and maybe my community? All these are important questions. But these questions, when they are discussed, they are owned by experts and they are very dry, very complex. And we need also to bring discussion closer to people.
That's great, thank you. And so just to finish, what are you excited about in the months that come? What do you think are key issues or steps ahead that you think are?
First of all, I'm super excited is that I think the time was never as ripe as it is right now. I mean, look at around us. I think the fragmentation of the world. I think COVID-19 has just accelerated some of the issues, and I think it's very clear. So, or we are able to contribute to really make some improvement when it comes to, especially we are interested about cities. So, in some cities, starting the conversation, difficult conversation, proposing and exploring a playbook of solutions. I think if we're able to do that, the time is so ripe that will create and generate, I think, a movement. So I'm excited about that. Exciting that we are able to contribute to that. The other things I'm excited is to work with you, Beatrice, and that's true. And your research team, that's great because it's young people. You're coming from a lot of different places of the world. I think you are understanding the world in a different way that I do and we do, and I love that. I think it's great. And last but not least, I love the idea to take risk and to take the risk of maybe fail. Or succeed. But what is interesting is to do that with passion and interest. And I think we are well placed to do that.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm actually very excited too. And we hope you are excited as well. Yves, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see everyone at our launch event on April 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. All the information is on our website or on the link below. And have a great day. And we hope you'll join the Edgelands movement. Bye. Second take. I wish we had like one of those things or
we do like that.